Doug Meyer or Spike with Rotochopper Customer Service. Today we're going to be talking about changing or flipping the teeth on the single bolt indexable rotor. This process will be the same if you have a B66, a B66L, MP2, MC, EC. Any of those rotors are going to be using this same bolt setup, and that's what we're going to go through today. So the tools we're going to need, we're going to use a torque multiplier. This is an 18-to-1 torque multiplier. The advantage of that is I don't have to push on that quite as hard. We use a 1/2-inch torque wrench to adjust that. You're going to want to check in your manual and see what your torque spec setting should be for tightening this, and we'll go through that when we get a little bit later. If I'm just flipping the tooth, I'm probably going to reuse this bolt. You're going to have to check the bolt to see if there's any damage. If you take an impact and you've damaged the bolt, obviously you don't want to replace it. But if you're just flipping the tooth, you can reuse the bolt. If we're going to be replacing it, we'd obviously need a new bolt, a nut, and a lock washer. We're going to want a paint pen for when we're done torquing it. We can mark it so we know we've done it. And then we're also going to want our Molly 50 anti-seize as our thread lubricant. Today's demonstration, we're doing the rotor outside the machine, which is a lot easier. But make sure you lock out and tag out the machine, and also make sure you wear the proper PPE. To get started, we'll go ahead and you can use an air impact to break the nut loose, or you can use a torque multiplier to break it loose. I've already loosened this one, so we can back the nut off, and we're going to remove this. If the bolt doesn't move inside here, you can use a hammer. Make sure you hammer on the nut, not on the bolt. Once that's removed, I'll remove the tooth. So when I remove the tooth, the bolt is going to come out. We're going to want to make sure we clean all the crudlies off of the outside of the bolt head, also inside the tooth and the back of the tooth. We're going to make sure these slots are clean. On the tooth mount, we're going to want to make sure everything is clean on there as well. So if I'm just flipping the tooth, I'm going to reuse this bolt. I put it back in, make sure it's threaded, install it. I'm going to take my Molly 50, and we're going to apply a generous amount of that onto there to make sure that we torque that down properly. And next I'll show you how to torque it. Okay, once I've installed the torque multiplier onto the bolt head, and now I can go ahead and torque it down. And once I hit my torque spec, then everything's set. So then I can loosen it back off, remove it, and I'll make sure I mark it so that I know that one's done. And then we'll move on to the next one. And just a couple notes, now that we've got everything set and torqued, bolt size is going to vary between some of the different teeth. So this is for a standard indexable tooth. If you do a quad-coat tooth, that's going to take a different bolt. Make sure you get the proper torque specs for each bolt and the proper bolt size. The other thing you want to make sure of is that if you have a damaged tooth and you replace this one, if the tooth on the other side is not damaged, you should make sure if you put a new tooth on this side, we want to put a tooth 180 degrees on the rotor. That's making sure our rotor stays in balance. The most important thing on these machines is making sure this rotor stays in balance. This is a good time to be looking over all the other bolts on here, looking at your rakers, making sure we're looking for any wear. Now that we've got all the tooth bolts torqued, we want to go ahead and run the machine for at least 10 hours, and then you can re-torque the teeth again, go through and checking the nut bolts. Again, I'm Spike with Rotochopper Customer Service. Remember, a well-maintained machine is a safer, more profitable machine. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook.